The silence on the line was heavy before the investor finally spoke. "I'm sorry. We're pulling out." Jacob closed his eyes, the phone pressing tight against his ear. That was it. The funding was gone and his company was almost dead. He sat in his office, feeling the crushing weight of debt settle on his shoulders. He thought of his wife waiting at home, expecting the strong, successful husband she married. She couldn't see him like this. She wouldn't understand this specific weakness. A desperate ache clawed at his chest. He didn't need a partner right now. He needed an escape. He needed him. Only his childhood friend could make the noise stop. He needed to disappear, to let go of this heavy mask he wore every day. He hung up the phone. He knew where he had to go. Back home, Jacob stood before the bathroom mirror, the razors scraping against his skin. With every stroke, he wasn't just removing his beard. He was preparing to strip away the identity of the failed businessman entirely. He stared into his own tired eyes, wrestling with the morality of it. Was it a betrayal to need this escape so badly? To need to become someone else just to survive the pressure? The guilt pricked him, but the desperation was stronger. Bella, his beautiful wife, was waiting. She smiled, warm and trusting, completely unaware of the financial ruin or the secret life he was about to step into. She reached up, her hand gently cupping his smooth jawline. "You look so handsome like this," she said softly, admiring the change. Jacob forced a smile, pushing down the shame. "I have to head out, Bella," he lied, his voice steady. "Urgent business trip. I'll be back after the weekend." He kissed her goodbye, and to his husband persona, and walked out the door. He stood amidst the racks of silk and lace, feeling like an intruder in a soft, forbidden world. He held up a delicate lacy piece, his expression serious and conflicted as he studied the fabric. Every logical part of his brain told him to put it back, to go home to Bella and face his failing company like a man. But the pull was too strong. It was a hunger he couldn't starve. He grabbed the hanger tight, adding a stunning black dress, sheer stockings, a blonde wig, and a full makeup kit to his pile. He pushed the guilt down, choosing the relief of escape instead. He hailed a cab, the back seat quickly filling up with bright pink shopping bags. As the car moved through the city traffic, Jacob sat in silence, staring blankly ahead with a heavy heart. He looked at the bags surrounding him, realizing they held the only comfort he had left. He wasn't just buying clothes. He was buying a few hours of freedom from being Jacob, the man who lost everything. At the hotel, the room was quiet and impersonal, perfect for his needs. He tossed the bags onto the bed and stood over them, hands on his hips, taking a deep breath before the ritual began. There was no turning back now. The makeup, the dress, the wig, they were waiting. It was time to let the stressed, broken man fade away. He sat before the ornate hotel mirror, the silence of the room amplifying the pounding in his chest. He uncapped the lipstick, a vibrant shade of pink that felt miles away from his gray corporate life. With a trembling hand that steadied as it touched his face, he applied the color, puckering his lips to get it perfect. The man who had lost his company was fading with every stroke. He shed the last of his business attire and slipped into a delicate pink lace robe. It felt soft against his skin, a stark contrast to the rough pressure of his debts. He picked up the long blonde wig, holding it gently in his hands as if it were a precious artifact. He studied the golden strands, seeing not a disguise, but a necessary liberation. Once the wig was secured, he picked up a flat iron. He focused intensely on the task, carefully straightening a section of the blonde hair. The heat hissed softly, the steam rising like his vanishing anxieties. In the mirror, Jacob was gone. The person looking back was vulnerable and waiting. He sat on the edge of the hotel bathtub and carefully ran the razor over his legs, watching the foam and hair wash away. It wasn't just about smooth skin. It was about erasing every trace of the man he was. He was thorough, shaving every nook and corner until his skin felt entirely new. Next came the final step of his transformation. He slipped into the stunning black sequined dress that hugged his frame perfectly. Sitting on the small, ornate stool, he carefully rolled up the sheer black lace stockings, feeling the delicate fabric slide against his now smooth skin. With the blonde wig perfectly styled and his makeup flawless, he stood up and looked at himself in the mirror. He posed, hands on his hips, looking down at his new form. For the first time in months, the crushing weight of his debt felt distant. He felt beautiful. Suddenly, a sharp knock echoed through the quiet room. Jacob froze. His heart skipped a beat, pounding hard against the sequins of his dress. It was him. His childhood friend was here. He took a shaky breath, smoothed his dress one last time, and walked toward the door to let him in. The door swung open, revealing Minato in a sharp blue suit. He didn't look surprised or judgmental. Instead, a warm, knowing smile spread across his face. "Hello, my dear Peaches." The sound of that name broke the dam holding back all of Jacob's despair. He collapsed into Minato's arms, hugging him with a desperate intensity that nearly knocked the breath out of them both. In that tight embrace, the failed businessman vanished. There was only Peaches, finally finding peace in the arms of the only person who truly saw her. Later, they sat at a small table for a private dinner. Minato poured the wine, his eyes locking onto hers with playful affection. He flirted effortlessly, making Peaches giggle and blush, something Jacob hadn't done in years. She completely surrendered control, letting Minato lead the conversation and the evening. She didn't have to be the boss here. She just had to be beautiful for him. By the time they moved to the bed, the outside world was a forgotten memory. Peaches lay beside him, her head resting on his chest, her body curved submissively into his side. She spoke softly, her voice gentle and needy, seeking reassurance like a woman relying on a strong man. Minato held her tight, whispering the words of love and protection she was starving for. Tonight, the crisis didn't exist. She was Peaches, and she was safe. As the rain tapped softly against the window, the silence in the room felt heavy with nostalgia. Lying safe in Minato's arms, Jacob's mind drifted back to where this all truly began. Halloween, 1998. They were just 22 then. Minato had just arrived from a small village in Japan, a shy exchange student assigned to Jacob's dorm. They became fast friends, but that night changed everything. Jacob had reluctantly dressed as Princess Peach at his girlfriend's insistence, feeling ridiculous in the pink satin, while Minato stood ready in a Batman costume. But the night didn't go as planned. A massive fight with his girlfriend left Jacob heartbroken and humiliated. He had stormed back to the dorm room, tears stinging his eyes, expecting to be alone. Instead, he found Minato. Minato didn't laugh. He froze, stunned by how beautiful Jacob looked in the dress. Seeing his friend's pain, Minato skipped the biggest party of the year without a second thought. He stayed to comfort him, offering a kindness Jacob had never felt before. Overwhelmed by this new, tender affection, Jacob fell into Minato's arms, hugging him with a desperate need to be held. That hug sparked a fire neither expected. It spiraled into a passionate kiss, and then into a night where the rest of the world ceased to exist. It was the night Minato lost his virginity, and the night Jacob realized a hidden truth. He craved the touch of a strong man. They woke up exhausted and exhilarated, believing they had found a fairy tale. They did hook up a few times since that night in secret. It became a ritual where Jacob was Peaches to escape real-world pain and find a temporary fantasy dream world in the arms of Minato. But the weight of society was too heavy. Fear drove them apart, forcing them into generic lives of business suits and traditional marriages to blend in. She leaned in, her lips finding his, and melted completely into Minato's reassuring arms. The outside world with its debts and expectations faded away as they recreated that passion-filled night from 1998. But this time, it was even more personal, raw, and intimate. However, as the morning sun broke through the curtains, the old feeling of dread crept back in. The ritual was ending. Reality was waiting. Peaches stood in the small kitchenette, slicing fruit for breakfast, trying to hold on to the domestic peace of the moment. Minato walked up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist, resting his chin on her shoulder. He held her tight, fighting the urge to let go. His mind raced. It wasn't 1998 anymore. It was 2026. The world was different now. They didn't have to fear society's judgment, only the pain of hurting their wives. But as they stood there in their 40s, Minato realized that if he let this go now, he might never get another chance to be with Peaches. He took a deep, shaky breath and turned her gently to face him. "Peaches, listen to me," he whispered, his voice trembling with emotion. "I love you. I have always loved you, ever since that night in the dorm. We don't have to hide anymore. I want us to live, really live, and be proud of who we are." He looked deep into her eyes, pleading. "Come with me to Italy next month. Let's just go. Let's live as a free couple. We will prepare a plan to divorce our wives and slowly get out of this and start a new life together. I will happily leave my wife to start a new life with you. Will you do the same for me? Will you choose us?" It was the heaviest question Minato could ask, weighing the destruction of 2 marriages against a lifetime of suppressed love. Yet it took Peaches only 3 seconds to whisper, "Yes." Italy was not just a vacation. It was a rebirth. Walking hand in hand down the bright cobblestone streets, Peaches felt the ghost of Jacob dissolving into the warm Mediterranean air. She held Minato's hand tight, no longer hiding from the world. Riding on the back of his scooter, clinging to him as they wound through the coastal roads, she felt a freedom she had denied herself for decades. On the beach at sunset, standing tall in a black bikini and feeling naughty, she looked into Minato's eyes with pure adoration. Jacob was well and truly gone. Peaches was here to stay. They knew their wives would suffer, and the fallout back home would be messy, but they accepted that every path-breaking choice demanded a sacrifice. They chose themselves. They sealed their new life not with a traditional vow, but by reclaiming the moment where it all began. Dressed once again as Princess Peach and Batman, they leaned in for a kiss, finally claiming the fairy tale ending they had been too afraid to grasp in 1998. This time, there was no fear. Only love. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing to my Patreon page. It has over 400 similar stories, captions, and videos. Links are in description. Thank you for watching.